My dear students, welcome to today's online class. Today we are going to discuss classification of memory devices. Let us see the structure of classification of memory devices. Memory devices are mainly classified into primary memory, first one, second one, secondary memory. And in the primary memory devices we have mainly two types. RAM, second one ROM, right? In the RAM we have SRAM and DRAM, right? In the ROM we have PROM, EPROM, and third one EEPROM. In the secondary memory devices we have two types. First one is magnetic memory, second one is optical memory devices, right? Here what are the examples for magnetic memory? Means floppy, hard disk, magnetic tape, magnetic drum, etc. magnetic disk. Here in the optical we have CD, DVD, pen drive, right? So this diagram shows how memory devices are classified. He says memory devices are mainly classified into two types: primary memory and secondary memory. In the primary memory devices we have mainly two types: RAM and ROM. RAM and ROM, that is RAM stand for random access memory. Random access memory. In the RAM we have two types, that is SRAM and DRAM. That is, in the RAM we have two types, SRAM and DRAM. That is static RAM, and second one is dynamic RAM. Right? SRAM means static RAM, static random access memory. DRAM means dynamic random access memory. Again here in the ROM, first one is RAM, second one is ROM. ROM stands for read only memory. ROM stands for read only memory. In the ROM we have again three types, that is PROM, EPROM, EEPROM. It means PROM means programmable read only memory. PROM means programmable read only memory. EPROM means erasable programmable read only memory. EPROM means erasable programmable read only memory. EEPROM means electrically erasable programmable read only memory. Right? So for the exam point of view, you may get one more questions like this: expand RAM. Expand RAM means random access memory, or you may get expand SRAM, that is static random access memory. Expand DRAM, dynamic random access memory. Expand ROM, read only memory. Expand PROM, that is programmable read only memory. Expand EPROM, erasable programmable read only memory, or you may get EEPROM, that is electrically erasable programmable read only memory. Like this, you may expect one more question from this chapter like this: expand. He can ask anything. He can ask any primary memory devices stands for. He may be asked EEPROM stands for, or expand EEPROM. Like this, you may get one question from this chapter like this: expand. Okay. Now we are going to discuss in detail about what is the primary memory, what is secondary memory. Means what is the primary memory devices, what is mean by secondary memory devices, why, when primary memory devices are helpful, when secondary memory devices are helpful, that thing we are going to discuss right now. Okay. Now see here, mainly memory devices are classified into two types: primary memory devices and secondary memory devices. Now let us see today regarding this primary memory devices. Now let us see what is a primary memory devices. The primary memory is used to store the intermediate and final results of a program. What it says? Why primary memory devices are going to be used means primary memory devices such as the RAM and ROM, again they are classified, right? Why this primary memory devices such as the RAM and the ROM is useful means, he says primary memory devices are going to be used to store intermediate results or final results of a program. Means, suppose this is the expression A is equal to B plus C, F is equal to A plus D, right? So this is the final expression. Means, to get this F value, we have to add this A plus D, right? So where is this A? In this step, in the first formula. To get this A, we have to perform plus B plus C. After B plus C, we are going to get A value, right? Afterwards, we have to take A here. Means, solving this first expression, we get the value A. And afterwards, we are going to take that A value in the second expression. Means, F is the final result. This A, which value we are going to get in the first step, that is a result, but that is not a final result. That is the intermediate results. And what value we are getting for F, that is called final result. So here, why I am telling means, secondary memory devices are used to store intermediate results as well as final results. Means, after writing program is going to be executed one by one. Means, those program related instructions are going to be executed one by one, right? So at that time, to get this final result, it has to hold intermediate results such as this A is equal to B plus C. After executing this statement, we are getting the A value. But that is not final answer, that is not final result. So when we are going to get final result, F is equal to A plus D, means after second statement execution, we are going to get final result. So what we are getting in the first step, that is intermediate results. So it means when primary memory devices such as ROM and RAM are going to be used means, he says primary memory devices are used to store intermediate results as well as final results of a program. Means, so this A is called intermediate result, that is not a final result. So whenever we are going to write programs, when that program is going to be executed, at that time system has to hold such intermediate results, and afterwards it takes that intermediate results to get final result. So that's why such intermediate results as well as final results of a program are going to be stored in one memory called primary memory. Right? So what he says, primary memory devices are going to be used to hold intermediate results as well as final results of a program. And next he says, the primary memory is a temporary memory because the data and instructions stored on it will be erased when power goes off. Means, this primary memory, what that primary memory is there, that memory is a temporary memory. He says primary memory is a temporary memory because when power goes off, then automatically what is the content, what data or instructions is going to be stored is there in primary memory, that is going to be erased due to power failure. That's why he says primary memory is a temporary memory. And he says that data and instructions stored in primary memory will be erased when power goes off. In the primary memory, we have two types, that is named as RAM and ROM. RAM stands for random access memory and ROM stands for read-only memory, right? So from this explanation, what we are going to get means, what is a primary memory? We can say primary memory is a temporary memory, because when the power goes off, the content of primary memory is going to be erased. That's why it is called temporary memory. And also what we can say, what is going to be stored in primary memory? In the primary memory, intermediate results as well as final results of a program is going to be stored. This is what information about primary memory. Now next, what we can say, this primary memory is divided into again two types, RAM and ROM. Now let us see what is this RAM. What is this RAM? RAM stands for random access memory. RAM stands for random access memory. See here, it is the read-write memory. It is just like a page of a notebook where you can write something or to read something from. What it says? RAM stands for read-only memory. What it says? RAM stands for RAM stands for random access memory, and this RAM is able to read, it is read-write memory. He says RAM is called read-write memory. It means in the RAM chip, you can write as well as you can read it. Means it is just like a page of a notebook where you can write as well as you can read from it. So it says RAM is that's why RAM is called read-write memory. And the data and the instructions entered by the user are stored in this memory. Means the data and instructions which are going for execution. See here, not everything, the data and instructions which are going for processing are going to be stored in RAM. RAM memory, and the RAM memory chip is made up of metal oxide semiconductor. What it says? This RAM chip is made up of metal oxide semiconductor, and he says that in the RAM memory location, memory location is accessed randomly for reading and writing. That is, the information stored in RAM memory location can be accessed directly without scanning it sequentially. Hence, it is called random access memory. It means RAM stands for random access memory. Means, let us assume this is a RAM. Okay, this is the RAM and this is the memory locations inside the RAM. Each memory location has some address. For example, this is 1, this is 2, this is, means what he says, RAM stands for random access memory. Means suppose this is a RAM memory, means it has some memory locations, and each memory location has an address. Each memory location has an address like 1 to 10. In 1 something is going to be stored, 2 something is going to be stored, like that all the memory locations has some data. Suppose I have to access, I have to read or write something in the place of memory location of 6 means it is possible to direct access that 6th memory location. Need not to access that 6th location sequentially after scanning first location, second location, okay. Sequentially one after the other memory location na access ಮಾಡೋ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದನ್ನು ರ್ಯಾಂಡಮ್ ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಯು ಸಿ ಹಿಯರ್, ಸಪೋಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಎ ರ್ಯಾಮ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಚಿಪ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ಸ್ 1 to 50. Suppose I want access the data which is there in the 25th location, then it is possible to access that 25th location directly. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಲೊಕೇಶನ್, ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ನಾಗ ಏನದ, ಥರ್ಡ್ ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ನಾಗ ಏನದ, ಸೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಷಿಯಲಿ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ 25th ಲೊಕೇಶನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಅಂದರೆ ರ್ಯಾಂಡಮ್ ಆಗಿ ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ರ್ಯಾಂಡಮ್ ಆಗಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವ ಬೇಕು ಆ ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ನ ಡಾಟಾನ ರ್ಯಾಮ್ ತೋರಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೈ ದಿಸ್ ರ್ಯಾಮ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ರ್ಯಾಂಡಮ್ ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ, ರೈಟ್. ಹಿ ಸೇಸ್ this RAM, in RAM memory location is accessed randomly for reading and writing. That is, the information stored in a memory location can be accessed directly without scanning without scanning it sequentially, and that's why it is also called random access memory. And he says that it is a temporary memory because during power failure the information stored in RAM will be erased. Sometimes it is called volatile memory. Means what is volatile memory? It is a type of, it is a memory in which data or information is going to be erased when power goes off, is called volatile memory. So this RAM contents, this RAM content information is erased when power goes off. That's why this RAM is called volatile memory. Volatile memory is called volatile memory. And how to avoid this erasing means by providing UPS. By providing UPS means stands for uninterrupted power supply, right. By providing UPS we can retain the information even in a power failure. Suppose UPS is there means whenever the power goes off, automatically current is supplied due to that UPS device. So using UPS we can retain or we can save data or instructions which are available in RAM. If UPS is not there means when power goes off, then automatically RAM content will be erased. So like this he says. And again we have two types in RAM. One is called SRAM, another one is called DRAM. What he says, in RAM we have two types, SRAM and another one is DRAM, right. RAM, in RAM we have two types, that is SRAM and DRAM. Stands for static random access memory. DRAM stands for dynamic access random memory. Now let us see what is mean by this SRAM and what is mean by this DRAM. He says SRAM entries are constant and fixed. The information stored in this type of memory does not degrade over time. Means this SRAM is also a type of RAM, and whatever the user entered information is there, user entry is there, are going to be constant and fixed. fixed. The information stored in this type of memory does not degrade over time. Means the content, whatever the content is going to be stored in SRAM are not going to be degrade. Whereas you take this DRAM. DRAM stands for a dynamic random access memory. The DRAM slowly leaks over time and must be refreshed from time to time. Means whatever the content is there in DRAM, it is going to be slowly degrade. This is the difference between SRAM and DRAM. Means contents in a SRAM are constant and fixed, whereas the things which are going to be stored in RAM are not going to be stored permanently. The memory of DRAM is slowly leaks over time. So these are the types of RAM. Now let us list the difference between SRAM and DRAM. For the 2 marks he is going to ask in the examination. First, what we can write? SRAM stands for static random access memory. Static random access memory, whereas the DRAM stands for dynamic random access memory. And second point, what we can differentiate? We can differentiate it holds data and data in a static form. This SRAM is going to hold data in a static form, that is constant. Means whatever the thing is going to be stored in RAM, that is in static form, means that is going to be stored constantly, whereas data is going to be stored in DRAM, hold data in a dynamic form. In a dynamic form. In a dynamic form means that is changes. That is changes. Means the data is going to be stored in DRAM, that is not going to be constant, that is going to be changed some time. And the next point we can say that this SRAM need not does not need refresh memory, right, because it is constantly stored. Here does not need a refresh of memory, whereas in a DRAM need refresh memory, need refreshing of memory, whereas in memory does not degrade over time. Here memory need not degrade over time. Here what happens in DRAM memory slowly degrade over time. Here memory slowly degrade over time, right? Means whatever the content of DRAM is there, that is going to be slowly degrade over time. ಹೌದಾ? ಟೈಮ್ ಆದಾಗೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ನಾಶ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ರೈಟ್. ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಸ್ಲೋಲಿ ಡಿಗ್ರೇಡ್ ಓವರ್ ಟೈಮ್. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ 4 points gives difference between SRAM and DRAM. Now let us see this ROM part. Now let us see this ROM part. Right. So what he says, this RAM is specially used to store intermediate results as well as final results. And now let us consider a ROM. This ROM stands for read-only memory. See here, it is a permanent memory. That is, the information stored in it will not be lost even the power goes off. What he says? This ROM is a permanent memory, whereas RAM is a temporary memory. Means whenever the current goes off, the data which is there inside the RAM is going to be erased, and it is called volatile memory, right? But the whatever the data is going to be stored in ROM, read only memory, that is a permanent memory. He says the data which is going to be stored in ROM is a permanent memory. Means when the power goes off, the content of ROM is not going to be erased. Hence it is called non-volatile memory. When the power goes off, data content is erased, means that is called volatile memory. When the power goes off, then also data will be remaining inside it, means it is called non-volatile memory. Means it is a non-volatile memory, because when the power goes off, then also the content of ROM will be as it is. Hence it is called non-volatile memory. What he says, it is a permanent memory, that is, information stored in it will not be lost even if the power goes off. And he says it stores mainly BIOS program. What he says, it mainly stores BIOS programs. BIOS programs means BIOS stands for basic input and output system. BIOS means basic input output system. Means this ROM contains generally BIOS programs, means basic input output system programs, which are needed to start system or start CPU. And he says that it stores mainly the BIOS programs. The information stored in it can only be read but not modified. Means the content of ROM can only be read. It contains BIOS programs, BIOS instructions, that is basic input output instructions, right? So we can see it, but it is not possible to modify that content, that ROM content. And he says that hence the name read only memory, because this contains, ROM contains BIOS programs, BIOS instructions which are needed to run the system, right? Basic input output system instructions are there in ROM. Suppose they are only possible to see the content of ROM. Modification of ROM is not allowed or not allowed. What happens if we can modify the ROM content? Means instructions which are needed to run the system are erased. When they are erased means system is not going to be work. That's why ROM contents can only be read. It is not allowed to modify. Hence, it is named as read-only memory. Read-only memory. And it is a manufacturer programmed memory, that is pre-built memory. What it says? This ROM is a pre-built memory. Pre-built memory means what are the content of ROM are there? They are the what ROM content instructions are there which are needed to perform basic input output operations, right? So those instructions are built by manufacturer. Those instructions are not built by user, right? So those are ROM instructions are built by system manufacturer. Hence they are pre-built. So what is the content of ROM? That is pre-built one, means that is not entered by the user, where RAM content are entered by the user. What RAM contains? RAM contains intermediate as well as final results, means those instructions are entered by the user, right? Whereas the ROM contents are pre-built, they are built by manufacturers. And next what we can see, this ROM chip contain again three different types. They are PROM, EPROM and EEPROM. That is, we can differentiate it like this. Type of ROM stands for erasability, erased by Now let us see what are the types of ROM we can list. PROM, first one is PROM, second one is EPROM, third one is EEPROM, right? EEPROM. So this PROM stands for programmable read-only memory. What? Programmable read-only memory, right? Stands for programmable read-only memory. Whether it is erasability, we can erase the content of PROM, not erasable. We cannot erase PROM memory. And when it is not possible to erase, means erased by also is not possible. And this EPROM stands for erasable programmable read-only memory, right? ROM. EPROM means erasable programmable read-only memory. It stands for erasable, means erasability is there, right? Erasable, possible. How it is possible means, he says EPROM, it is erasable. Yes, EPROM is erasable. How it is possible means, exploring it to an ultraviolet light source for about 10 to 20 minutes, means 10 to 20 minutes. Suppose we are going to place this EPROM, erasable programmable read-only memory to exploring it to an ultraviolet light source, then this EPROM content is erasable, right? And next, this EEPROM means electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. EEPROM stands for electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. Means the name itself tells whether it is erasable. Yes, possible, right? Possible. And how can be erasable this memory? This EEPROM can be erasable using electrically. So like this we can differentiate these type of ROM. In the next class we are going to discuss in detail about this secondary memory. That is what is this, what are the secondary memory devices are classified into magnetic memory as well as optical memory. What are the examples for magnetic memory? What are the examples for optical memory? These are comes under secondary memory devices. So in the next class we are going to discuss what is mean by secondary memory, when the secondary memory devices are helpful. That thing we are going to discuss in the next class. So what we learnt in this class, we discussed clearly what is mean by primary memory device, why it is used, and how it is classified, RAM and ROM. Again RAM contains in RAM we have SRAM, DRAM, and also in ROM we have three types: PROM, EPROM, EEPROM, right? In the next class we are going to discuss in detail about secondary memory devices. Thank you.